World Cup, they don't call it the best tournament in the world for nothing. The football delivered today, the soccer, the calcio, whatever you call it. And we are here to break it all down on OddsChecker's Golden Goal. I'm Matias. He's Martino Puccio, State of Play pod co-host. He also covers football betting for The Athletic. Martino, yesterday you told me you were one cup of coffee in. I'm at about 3 or 4 today. What's the coffee count look like today?
We're at 2 in desperate need of number 3, but it's also at a really bad time because we got to be up early again tomorrow. So I'm really struggling with that decision, like I have all day with some of these bets, which we'll obviously get into. So, crazy day in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the grind does not stop. And I guess our grind is just waking up and watching soccer. Not a bad way to live. But let's start with what got our attention early in the day. It is one of the biggest World Cup upsets of all time. Saudi Arabia, who was plus 3,300 in some books, coming back and beating Argentina 2-1. Obviously, we need to talk about the futures markets because Argentina was one of the favorites to win the tournament, the clear favorite to win this group. How do things change now?
I think things can obviously still change. We see them as favorites still, despite what just happened. Poland and
Mm-hmm.
Mexico probably playing a big part in that because that really was probably the most boring game of the entire tournament. Penalty save, like we said with Ochoa yesterday. But Argentina in general, like they created some chances. We're talking about just a cloth offsides for Lautaro Martinez, which we had in some parlays and would have hit if that would have happened. Messi missed a chance early on in the game as well. That penalty, a little suspect as well. But Saudi Arabia, kudos to them. I mean, they just genuinely
Mm-hmm.
outplayed them. It is one of the bigger upsets that we've seen, especially of the last 20 years. And again, coming back down 1-0 in this one. So just
Mm-hmm.
really impressive overall. And again, we always hear these percentages about teams winning their first match and advancing to the knockout stages. They are more than well positioned to do so.
Yeah, the best odds for that dual forecast and getting it straight is Argentina and Saudi Arabia now. It started as Argentina and Poland. And to your point, Argentina started as a minus 220 favorite out of the group. They've only dropped to minus 200 to win the group. But according to DraftKings, their odds to win the tournament went from plus 500 to plus 750 because obviously if you come in second, your path looks a little different. So are you scared? Are you backing off all your Argentina bets, or is this just kind of
I mean,
something that happens?
it's something that happens. I'm not really off on it. I don't think they played terrible. I think it's a combination of Saudi Arabia playing great and them missing
Mm-hmm.
up some chances. I think, like we saw, Enzo Fernandez, Julian Alvarez coming off the bench, it was completely different, and I thought it was better. But again, we see that in the second half. Just allowing those 2 goals, I don't really see something like that affecting the way it goes. And again, Spain in 2010, one of the greatest teams of all time, lost their opening match for the tournament. Granted, it wasn't Saudi Arabia, but it still can happen that you can go deep into this tournament. And again, like we've said, finishing second, the path isn't all that bad. You could probably run into France, but either way, potentially missing Brazil for a semifinal if they finish second isn't the worst thing. So yeah, overall, I mean, again, if you still love Argentina, you get them at better odds then, if that's what you want. So if you want to keep the faith with that, that's something you could do. But I understand where some of the doubters come into play here for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
And I mean, look, to be the best, you got to beat the best. So eventually you're going to have to go through some of those juggernauts. That was the big result of the day. Everything else was kind of a snooze fest. We lacked goals for the next 2 games. We'll start with the next one, and it was Denmark and Tunisia. And Tunisia put together a really nice performance. They tied 0-0. Denmark hit the post with just a front porch header. It was honestly impressive. That didn't score. Any big takeaways from here?
At least we were happy to give out the advice of the under in this one.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, it again, this is the frustrating thing about the sport and why it's difficult sometimes is that we were saying like Denmark to win 1-0 or 2-0 again, similar to what happens with the Netherlands, and they end up hitting the post, and that's what it really comes down to. The margins are so fine. We get usually one score games within this. I wouldn't be too upset or scared off of Denmark. It was a great performance by Tunisia. They need to be respected, and they're a good side. And again, Denmark going to be able to repeat a performance like this and probably put it in the back of the net because they had good opportunities as well.
Mhm.
Christian Eriksen has some great shots on goal. I wouldn't be too scared off of this stuff, but I do still think that Denmark matches are going to be low scoring. I don't think anything changes on that front. But overall, I just nothing you could take away from that. Tunisia really doing a good job of just grinding out a result and taking it game by game basis. And countries like that have to, because otherwise they're not going to really have much of a chance if they try and go for it, because then the game is just too open for them.
This game just screamed. You pick a winner and then draw no bet. Again, those are your friends. If you think that a team like Denmark might win, but you're also kind of weary of the draw, you take a little bit of juice off, but at least you get no bet if it ends up in a draw. Our next game, we kind of talked about it a little bit. It was Poland and Mexico, also 0-0. I had, picked Lewandowski to be an anytime goal scorer. It almost happened, had a penalty saved. That was a questionable one as well. Look, you said it on yesterday's episode. God bless you if you're picking a side in this game. Did you learn anything outside of neither team is overly impressive?
I didn't learn anything, and again, even when I said both teams to score yesterday, I still stand by it. Like we get a
Mhm.
penalty received there. It was hard. It was a horrible penalty by one of the greatest
Yeah.
strikers of a generation, and then also Mexico had their opportunities as well. It's not like they lack. So overall, if we keep on taking the same approach for these sides, I don't think we learn anything different. Sometimes it goes in the back of the net, sometimes it doesn't.
Mhm.
And again, I'll live and die by stuff if there's penalty saves. And again, we did warn about Ochoa. It's not like we said this guy isn't going to do anything. He puts on his Superman cape almost every single time in this tournament. But again, yeah, nothing learned too much. But and I thought it was an especially poor performance by the both of them, considering that I thought the group was wide open, considering what
Mhm.
happened with Saudi Arabia. You thought they would have been a lot more organized, but again, this is why you could see both of these sides actually missing out on this at this point, because I don't think either of them are going to have an easy match at this point. If Saudi Arabia keeps
Yeah.
playing like that, Argentina is going to bounce back. And I don't think these sides are anywhere close to the defensive organization that Saudi Arabia just put out today. So
Mm.
again, I would be weary if I was a bettor that had, both of these sides advancing to the next round. If you had that combination of Argentina one, Poland second, or Mexico second, again, Saudi Arabia really just throwing a whole wrench in the middle of this group and screwing things up. But hey, that's why the tournament's the greatest.
Yeah, it does not disappoint. And look, you hit the nail right on the head. This was a wide open group, and they missed an opportunity. You're talking about bettors that had Argentina one and another one too. To quote the great Taylor Swift, "It's me. Hi, I had Argentina and Poland, and right now it's not looking great." And our last game kind of went chalk. It was a little scary at first for France backers. They were down in the first 10 minutes to Australia, but then they score four in a row, and went 4-1. We had some questions, but you anticipated this was going to be an easy task for them, and they came through.
They did. They did. I'm kind of disappointed that no both teams to score didn't really hit,
Hmm.
because again, sitting there, they only had that really one opportunity that was that dangerous. The substitution for Lucas Hernandez was made, and Teo Hernandez comes on. The game's completely different. Mbappe took over. Giroud did a fantastic job of stepping. And this is what I was saying. Like, they won the World Cup without him scoring a goal last time, and he scores a brace in his first match for this tournament. He ties Thierry Henry all time for the France record of all-time goal scorer for their country. So again, I mean, this is what we learned, and it was just proven that we said France had depth and they were going to be able to
Hmm.
step up in certain matches. They put four up in the first game, and again, you're over. I'm so mad at myself for not taking my advice, because I basically flopped in the first three matches. I didn't end up betting the under for the 2.5 on my personal account, despite giving the advice in the Denmark match. And then again, I go against my advice in the final one, and it ends up burning me. So we're looking at a 0 day. But again, France is just so well positioned at this point. Like,
Hmm.
this was everything that they could have wanted. Almost every single player that they put on the pitch today has stepped up and performed. And again, Lucas Hernandez goes down, but his brother comes in and steps up, who's a better player, in my opinion. And now, France really looked the best out of any team besides, I would say, England at this point, that we've seen so far. So kudos to them. The defending champs look unbelievable.
And still a lot of talented teams we haven't seen either. And on these graphics here, you can see some of our handicappers, and plays that they hit. Shout out to Sam Eaton, our boss, who hit a nice one in this game. Let's take a look at tomorrow's games because this was seemed like a kind of an easy slate at times to guess. Tomorrow is not easy. First game is Morocco and Croatia. Croatia is a slight favorite, maybe not as much as you would think, and they are getting a lot of the money according to DraftKings. 91% of the handle, 94% of all total bets. What are you looking for in this game?
Well, that's the interesting thing is that the public really goes with a lot of the narratives. They just know the big games,
Mhm.
big names like Luka Modric. They saw Croatia in the final against France last tournament as well. They were kind of lackluster in the Euros, but still they have one of the greatest midfielders of all time. They do have players that could produce, and Morocco is not a team that is to be taken lightly whatsoever. So I think this one is just going to be a really tough match. Again, very similar to what we saw between Denmark and Tunisia. I think there has the opportunity to be more goals in this. I do like some of the finishers that Croatia has, and Vlasic is one of those players. And Modric, you could just never count out a player like that. They do have a stout defense. For me, I kind of do see something where it's under 2.5. I wouldn't be shocked by a 1-1 draw. And again, if the whole public is going on Croatia with this, Morocco is not a team that you don't have to spurn. And what we've seen so far is that these matches are going to be competitive, and AFCON is showing up. This is what we said in the
Mhm.
preview show. They are going to give teams matches. And again, some got scared off by Qatar. They got scared off by what happened with Iran against England as well. But we saw what just happened today. You don't have to be scared of taking a team like this. They're a lot better than people give them credit for. And again, these early matches, I'm just saying this is one of the hardest ones. I'm not personally putting anything down on it, but I see low scoring can go any direction. Seriously, and I know that doesn't sound like the greatest advice, but it's true though. If you wanna go in any direction with Morocco, Croatia, but again, it's one of those things. Do you want to bet against Luka Modric and his team? Probably not, but
Yeah,
again,
not a great idea.
this goes anyway for this one. I think this is the toughest one of the day by far.
Yeah, this is probably a draw no bet for a Croatia win for me. I'm not overly confident, but I do think they end up taking it out. I know you were thinking of the under 2.5. I kind of like the over. This is a Morocco team that can sneakily put up a couple of goals, and I think
Hmm.
Croatia has the firepower to keep up. But like you mentioned, this probably ends up being a no play for me. This is a tough one, especially after what we saw today. Let's
Hmm.
move on to our second game. We have Germany and Japan. First time seeing these two teams. Japan has really become a trendy pick. Germany low key has a very young team, and Japan has an old team. I think Germany has the 12th youngest, and Japan has like the ninth oldest, or something like that. It's something you wouldn't exactly expect. You picking Germany to take this because I think we both had them
Yeah.
winning the group.
Yeah, I have Germany winning this one, but there aren't too many things in terms of value to bet on within this. I mean, if you want to look at goal scorers, maybe Kai Havertz is someone that you want to consider in this. To me, just no Timo Werner here makes it so
Mhm.
difficult and kind of annoying to bet because that's the only player that I truly trust in terms of that. Does Makuku get a chance in this match as well? I think Germany is really going to be able to control this match. I do have them parlay with the over 1.5 in this with another bet that we'll get to. But as far as things go, I mean, if you really wanted to take over 1.5 or even push over 2.5, if you think Japan isn't going to really be able to handle them offensively and parlay with a Germany win, to me, it's just kind of you take some small bets in this one that have a lot of chalk or juice in it, and then you just toss them in a parlay in the future. But as far as single bet stuff, there isn't anything too crazy that I like within this. It's just I have Germany winning. I don't think it's going to be super high scoring. It's going to be one of those professional wins. Again, always mention the Germany or whatever country to win 1-0, 2-0, whatever it
Mhm.
may be. That's something that you look towards in a match like this. But again, keeping with the theme of I'm kind of scared of tomorrow, to be honest.
That's fair, and you're allowed to be scared. That's fine. It's been an unpredictable tournament to this point. For Germany, I do like a couple of things here. I kind of like the idea of Japan kind of taking them off balance and scoring on a counterattack. We know how good they
Mhm.
are in that field. So Germany to score last is interesting at minus 250. Obviously, giving up quite a bit of value there. But if you were to pick that with over 1.5, which is obviously implied, and then Germany to win, that could become interesting. Obviously, things get taken out of your parlay at that point. But I think both teams probably do end up scoring. But I think
Yeah.
whether it's the ghost of Thomas Mueller, who's going to
Mhm.
score tomorrow, I think Germany just has a little too much firepower for Japan. But I think Japan is going to impress a lot of people tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they almost eliminated Belgium last tournament.
Mm.
It ended up being a heartbreaker for them regarding that. So I mean, this is just the way it goes sometimes. But I gotta say, this one I think will go Germany's way pretty easily. But again, you never know what's gonna happen within these. Just be very cautious when you bet it. And again, Mueller. I guess if you want some historical context for this, he has the opportunity to go towards one of the all-time top goal scorers within this tournament. So if you like that historical context, if you think a player is going to be pushing for records like that, like sometimes people bet LeBron James overs in basketball when he's
Mhm.
close to beating someone on the all-time scoring list, like he did with Kobe Bryant, or if he knows he's close to Kareem or Karl Malone, he pushes harder for games like that where he's ever so close. Muller's ever so close. Maybe he's going to be more aggressive than he usually is. Maybe an anytime goal scorer or first time goal scorer. That's something to look at.
Moving on to our third game, staying within the group, we have Spain and Costa Rica. Spain is a heavy favorite, only 75% of the handle, which is interesting, but 95% of the bets. You think Costa Rica has a chance to shock the world here?
Listen, last time I said the team didn't have a chance to shock the world, it was just Saudi Arabia like this. But again, Costa Rica, really, if we're talking about qualifying out of pretty much any team in this tournament, I think they were by far one of the worst ones.
Mhm,
They're really not as impressive as they've been in recent tournament times. That core is a lot older. They don't have the greatest young generation coming through the ranks. And Spain is so good. Spain is so
mhm,
good. Again, like all it is just who is the goal scorer for them. But in a match like this, there are bets that we're talking about that appear on FanDuel where they just give you something that's almost at even money, minus 105, I believe it was, where you could have three different outcomes where Spain wins 1-0, 2-0, or 3-0, all considered the same bet that you get at minus 105. I don't see
mhm,
Costa Rica scoring. Spain's midfield is going to control this game. They're going to create opportunities for themselves. And again, that's three options that are not highly unlikely that you get there. And again, you could parlay that with other stuff. Potentially, it really just varies with the book because sometimes those bets might not be able to be parlayed with others. So again, for me, I don't really see how Spain loses. I think I would be very shocked. I think this is on the border of I don't know. I wouldn't say it's on the level of Saudi Arabia and Argentina, but I think this would probably be second behind them. I think that would be the most shocking thing of the
I'm
tournament so
I'm
far.
scared. I'm scared to hear you say it's as much of a layup as possible. You can see it on your screen. It's score to nil for Spain, and like you said, Martino. A lot of books don't even offer that, or they restrict what you can parlay that with. Of course, on your screen, you do have the grid on OddsChecker where you can compare all your value. We have promo bets. If this is the time you decide you want to sign up with a sports book that you don't currently have an account with, we have awesome promos for you to get the best bang for your buck for free bets, your best chance to win here on OddsChecker. And before we move on to our last game, just a reminder, we're giving away $500 just for subscribing to our YouTube page. And if you comment on any of our recent video, you're automatically entered for another entry. We're giving away $100 for the spread challenge on Instagram. We're also giving away a PS5. So there's no reason for you not to win something this holiday season. Moving on to our last game. This is probably the match of the day. It's Belgium and Canada. We have high hopes for Canada. Belgium is getting a lot of the backing, 75% of the handle, 90% of the bets. What are you looking at here?
I like both teams to score, honestly.
Mm,
Listen, Canada has been so impressive over qualifying. The amount of talent that they have, it's so underrated. Like seriously, like Jonathan David is better than any America. He's the best striker in the region, by the way. So any North American team, Jonathan David's better than all of them. They also have the best player in the region as well, in Alfonso Davies. He's played at the highest of levels in the biggest of matches. There's Tajon Buchanan as well, who's such a good player. Kyle Laren's just another veteran presence as well. This is their first tournament in a very long time, but they're not too small for this moment. I don't think they're going to be scared. I don't think there's going to be any deers in the headlights. And again, Belgium, people love backing them, for whatever reason, and again, we've said this in the preview, they're the Clippers, they're the Gonzaga of the worlds in this. They have a ton of talent, they have some of the best players, but they never get over the hump. And sometimes they're susceptible to poor performances. I'm not saying they're going to lose this, but I do think they're going to be able to concede a goal in this one. I don't think they have the greatest of defenses. It's definitely a lot weaker than they had in past tournaments. There is no Lukaku. Obviously, that does scare off a couple of people in terms of goal scoring stuff. But again, it's not like Canada is the most stout defensive team either. We're just talking about, can you give me a 1-1 here? Is there a 2-1 either direction? I think that's certainly possible, and that's something I like. I think it's going to be a lot more open, and like you said, the best game of the day. I hope it is, and I think it will be.
Yep. I think it'll live up to the billing. You picked Canada to get out of this group, and you're fading Belgium, so I think we know where you're leaning here. I like a couple of things. If you want to go for Kevin De Bruyne to register a point, whether it's an assist or goal, I like that as well. I think he's just too talented to not look at that in a game that he can end up controlling. Both teams to score is interesting, and just over 1.5. After a rough day today, it's important to get some easy wins. Any last words before we part for the day?
No, none at all. Just enjoy your coffee when you wake up in the morning, and make sure you have plenty of it, because this is it's multiple days in a row, and we got a holiday coming up as well, so it's not gonna stop anytime soon.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting Thursday morning to try to wake up for those early games. He's Martino Puccio. I'm Matias Weilmann. Another episode of Golden Goal in the book. We will be back with you tomorrow to break everything down. We have your coverage on Friday as well. So get set for Thanksgiving. I don't know if you got to go to the gym or get your stomachs ready for some big eating, but until then, see you at the next one.